Now that we have our effect kind of working the way we want it, let's look at getting the shading on the particles a bit more up to snuff. Again, when particles fall, we still get a fairly nice droplet effect with a couple of drop sprays to boot. I want to make the particles transparent, so just find a case where I can work on a good transparent particle here. Let's say right there. So to do this, we just need to work with the mental ray shaders. I'm going to select the point cloud, and I'm going to assign a material through the Materials Manager. So I'll create a new material, and I'll call this the Droplet Material. I can use a Phong shader. I could use the Architectural Material shader. All I really need to control is the angle of incidence. Now this is just depending on how complex you want the effect to look, but let's keep it fairly simple and work with some of our available tool shaders. If I open up the Show Hide preset and I look under the Illumination category of nodes, I can find the Incidence Shader, which of course takes the surface normal, the angle from surface normal to camera or surface normal to light, and allows us to use it to create interesting shading effects. I want to take the angle of incidence from the surface normal on each of these spheres as they make a blob and my camera to create a transparency in the middle of the particles and a slight opacity towards the edges, opaqueness towards the edges. If I plug into my Phong preset transparency, I'll start to get an effect that looks more like a droplet. I need to assign the droplet material to my point cloud, so I'll right-click and assign to selection. And there I start to get the look of my my droplet. So I'll open up the Incidence shader. I'll try and get a better angle here, and I'll work at creating a nice profile for this drop. So what I'm trying to do here is just increase the bias to decrease the amount of opacity. I want to have a fairly transparent drop with just a little bit of opaqueness towards the edges to define the mass. I'm also going to go into the shader and control the reflection. So if I click on the droplet material and I open up the Phong preset, I can also control the reflection as well as the index of refraction. We will get some bending of light through transparent objects. So on the reflection tab, the transparency is being driven by the angle of incidence, but our index of refraction in this case, so we get something like that. If I increase the aliasing in my scene, we should get a more accurate looking drop. Now this might be a little much. Again, this can be totally customized the way you want it, but 1.333 is the index of refraction of water, so we'll actually go with this for now. You could even add a little bit of blur to the effect if you wanted to. So if you added, say, a few samples and a touch of frost in there, you would be able to kind of blur, if you will, these reflections, or the transparency, the index of refraction that we see. You need to have quite a number of samples, of course, to get rid of the noise pattern that you see in here. One other option, of course, is to use the Illumination Architectural shader. So if we, again, select our droplet material, instead of using the incidence with the Phong preset, we could also go in and try the architectural as well.